Have you ever wondered what other people make? Well, stick around because in this video, I'm going to share with you some real life data of people who self-report their actual salaries. Hey everybody, it's Brian from A Life After Layoff, and today I want to share with you some real life data of people and the salaries that they claim to be making. Now, I went down a Reddit rabbit hole, and there's a thread that people are self-reporting their actual salaries. So of course, curiosity got the best of me, and I jumped into that thread and started scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And I don't know if it was a good thing because I feel like either a complete failure in life or that I maybe need to reevaluate the kind of things that I'm focusing on in my own career. But I thought that I would pull some of the more interesting and more eye-opening data points out for you, and we'll walk through my thoughts and reactions to them. Now, I will say this, as a disclaimer for this video, Reddit is the wild, wild west, and obviously anybody can put whatever they want on there. So let's take these results with a little bit of a grain of salt. Second of all, I can't 100% guarantee that the self-reported salaries are from the United States, which is where I'm from, and I'm kind of basing the numbers on. So I did try to eliminate anybody that was obviously not in North America, just so that we could compare apples to apples. But regardless, I do know that some of these salaries are absolutely accurate, and I think it's worth taking a look at. And especially if you're somebody that is not quite sure what they want to do when they grow up, maybe this will be an eye-opening experience for you as well. And because there are so many interesting self-reported salaries, I probably will do a series on this because this video would be way too long otherwise. But before we get too far into it, if you're interested in more videos just like this one, directly from a corporate recruiter, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button because that really does help the channel get additional exposure and allows me to continue bringing you great quality content. Or alternatively, if you have a small YouTuber that you admire and you can tell that they're putting a lot of effort into their channel, maybe consider giving them that sub because that would really mean a lot to getting their channel going. So let's jump headfirst into some of these salaries. The first one we've got here is a private jet captain. This person is saying that their income varies with overtime, but this year they're going to be making around $360,000 per year. So not a bad gig if you can get it. And I will say anecdotally that I do know some people who were flying captain in mainline airlines and then made the move to the private side. I do know that they made a sizable increase in their income, better hours, although with overtime, I'm not sure about this person, but better hours. And they actually said that they had more fun flying because it was a smaller plane, more nimble and agile, and it basically gave them more control. So I'm willing to bet that this number is actually pretty accurate because and this is a hard gig to get because there's not a whole lot of really decent paying private jet captains. So if you can get a corporate gig, if you're a pilot, if you can get a corporate gig flying small charters, maybe flying the executive teams around, it's a really good one to get. I think there's actually a little bit more information. So somebody did push back and say that they're flying $360,000 a year because this person's saying they actually fly a 757 and it's less than that. And then this person clarifies that their base salary is in the low 200s, which makes more sense, but the rest is in bonuses, holidays, and extra work, the days that they picked up. So, I mean, still they're almost doubling their income, just picking up extra working days and some bonuses. So, and I guess flying over holidays. So probably time and a half or double time. So again, not a bad gig if you can get it. All right, so this next one is Chicken Jesus says that he does research with brain cells, HIV, cocaine, and fentanyl. And they make $29,500 per year, which is the equivalent of $14 an hour, which is like, for researching, I don't know what kind of research they're doing, if they're working for a pharmaceutical company or for an addiction company, or what they're working on. I guess HIV and brain cells. I'm wondering if it's what kind of research, if it's for a university. But this person does say that it's sad that this is what a master's degree got you. And if you got to think of in terms of cost versus the benefit of getting a master's degree, how much student loan this person has, and to be earning $29,500, I mean, that's like poverty level. So not to discourage folks who want to get into research, but definitely keep that number in mind. All right, next we have a nuclear plant electrician at $50 an hour. And this person is actually making $130,000 to $150,000 per year, depending on overtime and bonuses. And it looks like they're moving into an operations role at a plant soon. Now, I'm wondering if this person is working they're an electrician. They're probably working in the same plant. I do know some people who work in the nuclear power industry who do travel quite a bit. They go from plant to plant to plant. And they make sizable incomes as well. But I don't know if this person is doing that or staying in the same plant. I'm assuming that they're staying in the same plant, but still, if you're willing to risk working in a nuclear power plant, which I'm sure is perfectly safe, then you can make a pretty sizable income, especially being an electrician. So skilled trades, $50 an hour, $150,000 a year, not something to sneeze at. All right, so next up we've got Kevin Capp saying that he's an officer on a container ship, working about 6 months out of the year and makes about $120,000. For the most part, his job is looking out the window at some waves. So from that perspective, I guess that's a pretty good gig. The 120 for 6 months, if you get 6 months out of the year that you can do whatever you want, that's definitely an attractive situation. I will say that to me, there's the possibility. Now, I know the amount of issues that happen at sea are very slim. Maybe I watch too many documentaries about ships sinking that I don't know if I would be able to do that. But also being out to sea for 6 months at a time does take a special kind of person. And if you've got a family at home, it does take a special kind of spouse to be able to be on your own for that long. All right, here's another person in the power industry. This is an electrical substation design engineer making about $126,000 a year. So I would say that's probably pretty accurate, especially for the electrical design. And I know in the power industry, which I have some experience in the power industry, I would say that's probably about right for somebody that's got 5 to 7 years of total experience. So I would say I believe 126. In fact, it probably could even be higher because electrical and design could, if you're an electrical engineer, it could be even higher than I wouldn't be surprised if it paid up to 150. Okay, so next we've got a medical coder making $31 an hour. That equates to about $65,000 annually. I'm wondering, I actually do know some medical coders and some people who do it as a side hustle, and they basically, I would say that's probably pretty accurate. I do know somebody who does medical coding full-time and works a lot of overtime, and I'd say with overtime, they're probably around 35 to 38. Their base rate, I think, is going to be lower than 31, probably more in the mid-20s. But still, not a bad gig, especially when you don't really need any special education. It's not a bachelor's degree that you would be required. So this person I know is making a ton of paid overtime. So not a bad gig. All right, so next we've got Fodder of Cannons, who is saying that he or she is an air ambulance pilot. So in other words, a helicopter that's like life flighting is my assumption. And they are saying that they make $80,000 a year, which actually seems kind of shockingly low, to be honest with you, being a pilot, especially a helicopter and in life flight. Now, I do know the medical industry does pay fairly low unless you're a doctor or a physician. But I would have expected that actually to be a little bit higher. So I'm actually a little bit shocked by that one. All right, so here we have an air traffic controller. Now, air traffic controllers claiming to make around $100,000 a year. I believe I've read somewhere that air traffic control is one of the most stressful jobs on the planet, and I could see why. When you're dealing with all kinds of air traffic coming in, you got to make sure all the airplanes are landing in the correct space, being in the right airspace. And you're essentially responsible for thousands of people's lives, and one wrong move could be catastrophic. Gosh, I don't know. I mean, 100,000 sounds about right. Say this person is saying around 100K, so I'm going to guess that it's actually potentially lower than 100K. I feel like that's probably underpaid for the amount of responsibility that they have. All right, here's Schmoss World says that they are a strip club DJ. I guess it takes all types, but so if you're looking for a new gig and you are good at DJing, hey, consider working at a gentleman's club. It says they gross around 65K per year doing 3 nights a week. So, hey, if you got some time to do some other side hustles, but you can expect to make around 65K to do the DJing and announcing of the entertainers that come on the stage. All right, so next up we've got restaurant manager for a well-known restaurant. So I'm just going to assume, I think we all know probably what restaurant chain this probably is. They think they have an orange uniform, if that gives you another hint. And let's see, they're saying that they make $75K as a base salary and an additional $20,000 to $25,000 annual bonus. So they're bringing in around $100K to be a restaurant manager. So I'm wondering what kind of tips those girls get, or the I should say the waitresses get, and how it compares. But the actual manager of the facility of the place is making 75 plus 25. So let's just say we'll call it even six figures, which probably isn't terrible for a chain restaurant. I'm not too familiar with what the hospitality industry pays, but I would say that's probably not terrible. All right, so Megan Yu is saying she is a professional theater actress, and she currently, at her job, she makes $568 per week before taxes. So let's just do a quick figure out of how much that is. Assuming she works year round, you're looking at $29,500. So follow your passion if you are an actress, but certainly don't go in it for the money, because the chances of you making it big are probably pretty slim. So $30,000, that's going to be a tough wage to live on. Probably going to be doing some side waitressing somewhere else. But 30 grand nonetheless. All right, so here is an interesting one. I thought that this one was pretty crazy. This is Psychotic Precision. This person is an underwater welder, which I've seen some shows about underwater welding, and I'm assuming like in offshore oil platform rigs and things like that, where they need somebody to go deep and do welding on maybe pipelines or on fixtures underwater. To me, that's really scary stuff, especially if it's in the open water out in the ocean. I could never do that. I feel like the size of the ocean it kind of freaks me out, and not to mention all the critters that are out there, and then anything could go wrong, especially if you're deep. You're just not in your. Humans aren't meant to be down there. So I can see that they earn every penny, and they're reporting $216,000, almost $300,000 annually. So that seems like really good cash if you can get it. I would also expect that this person probably spends a whole lot of time out to sea as well. If I'm assuming that it's underwater deep. Now it could be just in a lake or in a river or something like that. Not to say that that's any less scary, but if they're out on an oil platform rig or something like that, then I could see that being also tied to how long they're out at sea, how long they're away from home, how many hours that they have to work, the danger of the conditions. So 300. I mean, so if you're somebody that likes to be underwater and you're a good welder, you can make some serious physician level income. All right, so we've got a freelance video editor that can make between $500 to $600 a day. Now I will put an asterisk on that, saying that if you can get it. So $500 to $600 a day is if you actually have the work coming in. So this person is clarifying, saying a bad year, they make between 40 to 50K a year, which is about what I would probably expect. And if they've got a really solid year, they can make between 95 to 110. So it's a pretty big swing. You can make between 1 to 2 times your income. I will say that the freelance video editor gig, not that I've ever done it myself, but it is a gig work, and you're always looking for the next job. So the grind and the hustle of it can start to wear. All right, so let's take a look at another healthcare one. This one is actually pretty shocking to me, and I've heard this anecdotally in other places. So this one isn't totally a surprise, but an EMT that only makes $15 an hour. And when we look at some of the other wages that people are getting paid, it's really pretty crazy. And this person is saying, you guys need to realize I'm on the high end. So $15 is actually the high end starting wage here. And that's freaking nuts, which I totally agree with. I met a guy who worked 20 years as an advanced EMT over in Tennessee, which is where I'm from. And he's legit making $10.50 an hour. These people are saving lives, their first line defense, they probably have to deal with some pretty horrific stuff and are only making $10.50 an hour. So something is definitely off in our world if an EMT who is showing up as your first responder, your first line of defense, and is saving lives on a daily basis is only making $10.50 to $15 an hour. All right, so now we've got a yard driver at Walmart. Now this drive yard truck for Walmart, I'm assuming this is person, he's driving the yard, he's in a distribution warehouse where he's moving trucks around a warehouse, so that they'll bring trucks in or intermodal, and then he'll probably attach his trailer to different trucks and move them around a yard and attach them to the bays and that type of thing. He's saying that he makes $10K a month and $120K a year. Now I wonder how much of that's overtime. But still, even if you're working a reasonable amount of overtime and you're still pulling on that kind of dough, just look at EMT driver, or EMT is only making $15 an hour on a good day. And you've got somebody moving trucks around in Walmart's distribution warehouse making 120. All right, so another medical related one. We've got this person works as part of an agency. They're a travel nurse, and travel nursing has really exploded, of course, since pandemic started. And we've got this person self-reporting at $81.50 an hour and a staggering $130 an hour for overtime. And I would imagine, because of the shortage of nurses, that this person can pick and choose when they want to work, how often they want to work, how many hours of overtime they want to pick up. So super good dough if you're interested in traveling. Now, that's probably going to be harder for some people to do the further they get in their lives. But if you can stomach the travel and you're a nurse, something to think about. All right, here we go. Street magician. Let's see. They said it depends on location and season are the biggest factors. And I'm assuming that you would probably need to be in a tourist area, maybe Vegas or LA or something like that. And he or she can make anywhere between $300 to $3,000 per week. That's pretty big spread. So on a good week, say if they're making three grand a week, it's easily making over 100,000. I'm just going to average it out and say this street magician could be bringing in six figures pretty easy if they've got a good location and a season that kind of lasts a lot longer. All right, so here we have artificial intelligence and computer vision. So this person is an IT technical person, and they are self-reporting 230,000. So essentially, what this person is doing is they are working with robotics and machine vision. Basically, I'm assuming, I'm wondering if this has to do, it says not cars, so it's not geospatial intelligence. So they're not doing autonomous driving, but basically what they're doing is working with artificial intelligence. And they've got a PhD from a very well-known school, so they probably racked up some pretty serious education debt, and let's see, less than 1 year of experience, you can come out with 230,000. So not bad. The next one is a software engineer, and they're self-reporting 384,000 total comp. My guess is that that's probably somebody that has between 5 to 8 years total experience. And I will say, working in technical recruiting at a FANG, that the 384,000 total comp is not unrealistic. And I would say probably my guess is the base would be probably in the 2 to 225 range, with the total comp being restricted stock units and that type of thing. I would say that 300 plus is very doable for a software. Usually it's a back end software developer, and he's probably working for a fairly decent sized company or a fairly well regarded, probably a company we've heard of before. Usually the smaller engineering companies smaller software developer companies can't pay that kind of money, but if you go to a big company, they will. So now we have a carpenter, $67 an hour. That includes my benefits. And there's basically some people, I guess, were saying that he was lying, that he makes $67 per hour, including my benefits. So I don't know what that means, including the benefits, if he's including his medical insurance into that. But let's just take his face value. If he works for the year, that's $140,000 at just 40 hours a week. That's not including any overtime. So carpenter, a union carpenter, $140,000 a year. Not bad. Not a bad gig if you're good with your hands. All right. So here's another one. And this one is a nightclub director in Vegas. This person is claiming a 100K base, a 100K tip pool and a $150,000 performance bonus and a lot of other, I wonder what other perks those are, but that's a pretty sweet gig. If you can become a nightclub director in Vegas and you're in a decent spot, it looks like the money's pretty good there. You're looking at 350 is my guess. I don't know how the tip pool's broken up, but yeah, nightclub director, that's where it's at. We'll do a couple more and then we'll call it a night. But here we've got an oil refinery guy, not entirely sure what they're doing. Let's just assume that they're some sort of a millwright or a boiler maker or pipe maker or something, like a pipe fitter or something like that. 150,000 per year, union job, 401k and benefit, pension. The 401k and the pension and good benefits. And this is kind of a sweet gig because most companies don't offer the 401k and the pension, and this person is getting both. And I do know the oil industry specifically pays really well, to the point where almost can't even replace it if you were to leave the industry. So do not doubt this guy's income at all, especially if he's doing some very highly technical work, and he's a skilled trade and he's in a union job. 150 sounds very doable. Okay, and here we have another airline. We've got an aircraft cleaner. They're making $17 an hour, and the perks, which this is a pretty sweet perk, free flights. And this person says it's a pretty fun job that they enjoy. I will say the free flight privilege for my wife was a flight attendant, and we did use that privilege quite a bit. Got a chance to travel all over the world. So that is definitely a huge draw. At $17 an hour, I wonder how much you're going to actually be able to use it to enjoy yourself. But I would say a lot of people in the airline industry, especially in the lower paying positions, will use the free flight privileges as kind of a little bit of a golden handcuff. So I can actually absolutely speak in terms of that's a huge benefit, and it's a really good benefit, especially for an airline that actually goes to good places. All right, so the last one we've got here is a school psychologist for public schools, and I'm thinking Mr. Mackey from South Park comes to mind. It's $120,000 for 180 days, so 125 grand for basically half a year. Full benefits in retirement, never-ending professional development. Took 35 years to get to the salary, so he's probably highly tenured. Started off 40 and worked his way up on a graduated pay scale. So money can be pretty good, and time off and the perks can be pretty good if you are somebody that's willing to pay your dues and work your way through it's a graduated, very slow pay scale. I know not all teachers make this kind of money, so maybe school psychology is where it's at. All right, so there's a lot of data points for you to take a look at. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of an eye-opening look at some of the salaries that are out there and some of the traditional jobs that you could potentially work that maybe you weren't considering before. The moral of the story is we've learned that people who work in software development can write their own check. People who are in skilled trades can also make a ton of money. So you don't have to go to college for a bunch of years in order to earn a very reasonable income. And if you're an EMT, my heart goes out to you, and thank you for your service, even though you don't get paid very much to do it. If you're trying to get into any one of these jobs and you need a little bit more help, that's actually something that I specialize in. I do have a website called lifeafterlayoff.com, and it is loaded with tips and tricks on how to get through the interviewing process and land one of these dream jobs. And I do share my deepest and most intimate knowledge in the form of a couple of training courses. The first one is called Resume Rocketfuel. It is designed to give you the best chance of getting noticed by that recruiter in order to land your dream job through teaching you how to write an effective resume. But once you get that first round interview, it is up to you to sell yourself throughout the rest of the interviewing process to ultimately land your dream job. And that's where the Ultimate Job Seeker Bootcamp comes in. It's going to walk you through each step of that interview process and ultimately help you land that dream offer. So if you're struggling in your job search, highly recommend that you check them out. Hey, I appreciate you watching, and hopefully this was as much of an eye-opening experience for you as it was for me. And we'll see you on the next one.